In today's lesson, I'm going to teach you the 5-step memory technique that will help you finally remember each and every word you learn and be able to use them in real life. Are you ready? Well then, let's jump right in. Step number one is find a matching picture. Remember, we're speaking about learning an English term and then figuring out how you can retain that information and use it in real life. Step number one is to find a matching picture. Let me break this down. You're going to locate an image that visually represents the word's meaning. And stay, because I'm going to show you this in real life. You're going to use online image searches, stock photo websites, or capture your own photograph. Take your phone and capture your own photograph that embodies the concept. The key is finding a picture that instantly communicates the essence of the word without needing explanation. This is very key. Now, before I show you some examples, I want to explain why this works. The first reason this works, that pictures are so powerful, is because visual memory is processed faster and retained longer than text alone. I, your teacher, am a visual learner. This is why I stand by this step so much. You see, the human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text, making visual associations incredibly powerful for memory. The second reason is images create emotional connections. And I'm smiling as I'm thinking about the example I'm about to show you. They create emotional connections that strengthen recall. Pictures evoke emotions and feelings that make abstract concepts more tangible and memorable. And finally, the third reason why this is so powerful, this step, is because pictures provide context that makes abstract words concrete. Visual representations transform vague concepts into specific, understandable scenarios. So let's jump right into an example so that you can see the power of finding a matching picture. I want you to look at this image right here. And don't worry, if you're listening via the podcast, I'll break it down. Now, the word is jubilant. Jubilant is spelled Jubilant. And if you're watching this lesson, even before I tell you the meaning, you can kind of guess what the meaning is. Jubilant. We see a woman that is celebrating with pure joy. I mean, the smile on her face, how she looks extremely happy. This is an image that represents the term jubilant. This is someone celebrating with pure joy, fists clenched, eyes shut, beaming with excitement. The physical expression of happiness makes the meaning unmistakable. She is jubilant. You see now this term jubilant in a picture. But what if the word we chose was serene? We were studying the word serene and now we have it. So we're looking at this image. We have the term serene and we're looking at this image. It's a beautiful image of a lake with mountains in the background, a perfectly calm mountain lake reflecting the sky and trees like a mirror. The visual stillness and tranquility embodies the word's meaning instantly. This picture by itself, all of a sudden, makes you feel calm. This is a visual representation of the term serene. You're seeing now why the first step is so powerful. Find a matching picture. What about this picture? This picture for the term dilapidated. Now that's a big word, but look at the image. Look at the image, this broken down building. Again, the term is dilapidated. And when you look at the image, you see an old crumbling building with broken shutters and deteriorating walls. The visible decay immediately communicates the state of disrepair that the word describes. The word dilapidated. This image shows you what the word dilapidated means. We had jubilant, we had serene, we had dilapidated. Now, if someone says, ooh, she felt jubilant, you'll immediately bring that picture to mind. If someone says, ooh, did you see that dilapidated building? Immediately the picture will come to mind. This is why step 1 is so powerful. Again, find a matching picture. We're talking about the 5-step memory technique. This leads us to step number 2. Step number 2 is to write a personal sentence. Write a personal sentence. What you're going to do is create your own sentence using the new term, the term you learned. This makes it personally relevant and demonstrates understanding of proper usage of that term. This active engagement transforms passive vocabulary recognition into active language production. We want you to not just remember the term, but also use it. So why does this work so well? Here's the first reason. Personal context makes words meaningful and easier to remember. When you connect a word to your own experiences, your own life, you create a unique memory. This is a trace that's easier to retrieve when you get into a conversation. Here's the second reason. Writing reinforces learning through active engagement with the term. The act of constructing a sentence requires you to understand grammar, understand context, and meaning simultaneously. And the third reason is your ability to practice correct grammar will increase, and you will be able to use what you're learning immediately. By creating your own example, you internalize proper word usage rather than just memorizing definitions. This is the English term memory technique you've been needing. So, how does this look? Again, let's go back to my notes now. So, we're going to be writing a personal sentence. Remember, we learned those 3 terms: jubilant, serene, and dilapidated. All right, so we have the first term. We have jubilant. So, what would our sentence sound like? Here's my sentence for jubilant. I felt jubilant when I received my promotion at work last month, and I celebrated by treating my family to dinner at our favorite restaurant. Personal sentence about my situation using the term. This is step 2. Write a sentence about your life using the term. What about serene? Here's the sentence I would write for serene. The beach at dawn was so serene that I could hear nothing but the gentle waves lapping against the shore and the occasional call of a seagull. Using the term serene. And what about dilapidated? Here's the sentence for dilapidated. The dilapidated house at the end of our street has been abandoned for years, with its roof caving in and vines growing through the broken windows. These are the sentences about my life experiences connected with the terms I learned in step number 1. Now, here is the key. I want you to listen very closely. Here's the key. Each sentence connects the vocabulary word to a personal experience. So when you, my friend, write your own sentence, use a real memory or situation from your life. The more personal, the more memorable the word becomes. This is step 2 of our 5-step memory technique, and it leads us to step number 3. But before we get to step number 3, I want to tell you a bit about a system that I have created. The system is what I use to help students all around the world. Here's something that most learners never realize. You see, 15 minutes a day doesn't sound like much. But 15 minutes today, plus 15 minutes tomorrow, plus the day after that, in 1 year, that's a completely different version of you. The problem you've experienced so far was never effort, it was consistency. And the 365-day English fluency system gives you one clear lesson every day, so your progress compounds instead of resets. I want you to follow the system by going to www.speakenglishwithttiffany.com/365 system. Start following the system that has helped so many others achieve their English goals. I'll see you there. Now, let's jump into step number 3 to help you with your memory and remembering and using English vocabulary words. Step number 3 is find 3 synonyms. Now, you're going to look up your vocabulary word in a thesaurus, like thesaurus.com, or the built-in thesaurus in Word. Read through the list of synonyms provided and select 3, just 3, that are the closest in meaning. Write down all 3 words with their definitions to understand the subtle differences between them and when each might be most appropriate. So now we went from learning the terms by finding a picture, then writing a personal sentence, and now we're looking for synonyms. Why is it important for you to use or find synonyms? Reason number 1. Synonyms create multiple retrieval pathways in your memory. When you can't recall the exact word, knowing synonyms, similar words, gives you alternative routes to express the same concept. Here's reason number 2. Understanding related words deepens comprehension of the original term. By comparing similar words, you grasp, you understand subtle distinctions in meaning, tone, and usage. This is a powerful step. And reason number 3, you learn word families that increase overall vocabulary efficiency. Learning clusters of related words is more effective than learning isolated terms. This is why step 3 is so powerful. So let's check out what the example would look like by looking at my notes. So again, we are on step number 3. Now remember, we have 3 words. We have jubilant, serene, and dilapidated. Let's start with jubilant. Let's find 3 synonyms. So I've written out the 3 synonyms for the term jubilant. Now, our first synonym is ecstatic, and that just means overwhelmingly happy. Our second synonym for jubilant is elated, and that just means extremely proud and happy. Our third synonym for jubilant is overjoyed, which means extremely happy about something. So now in your mind, there are 3 synonyms for the term jubilant. We have ecstatic, elated, and overjoyed. What about serene? That image we saw of that beautiful lake in front of the mountain. Serene. The first synonym is tranquil. Tranquil just means free from disturbance. Our second synonym for serene is peaceful, which just means free from conflict or disorder. Our third synonym for serene is calm, which just means not showing or feeling nervousness. So now 3 synonyms for the word serene. We have tranquil, peaceful, and calm. And then what about dilapidated? Dilapidated also has 3 synonyms. The first synonym that we have for dilapidated is decrepit. Decrepit just means worn out or ruined from age or neglect. Then we have our second synonym, ramshackle. Ramshackle just means appearing ready to collapse. I like saying this word, ramshackle. And then our third synonym for dilapidated is crumbling, which just means breaking into small fragments. So we have 3 synonyms for dilapidated. We have decrepit, ramshackle, and crumbling. Again, our step that we're looking at. The step is finding 3 synonyms, our third step. This leads to step number 4. Step number 4 is finding the opposite word, the antonym. Use a dictionary or thesaurus to find antonyms by looking for the section labeled antonyms or opposites. Choose the antonym that most directly contrasts with your vocabulary word. Write it down, along with its definition to fully understand the spectrum between the two extremes. This is step number 4. Again, finding the opposite word. Now, why is this so powerful? Why does this work? Why is it important? The first reason is opposites provide clear boundaries for understanding word meaning. Remember, we're talking about the memory technique, helping you finally remember, retain, and use vocabulary words. So finding the opposite word helps you understand the boundaries. Contrasting a word with its opposite creates a clear mental framework that defines both terms. The second reason is contrast strengthens memory through comparison and distinction. The human brain naturally remembers contrasts and extremes better than isolated concepts. So instead of just one piece of information, when you have another piece of information that is in some way connected, even if it's an opposite, your brain is has an easier time remembering it, retaining it, and bringing it to mind when you're in a conversation. And finally, you learn 2 vocabulary items for the effort of 1. By studying antonyms together, you double your vocabulary learning efficiency. All right, so let's check out my notes to see what this would look like for our 3 terms that we've been looking at. So again, we have jubilant, we have serene, and we have dilapidated. So let's start with jubilant. The 2 opposites, I chose 2 words, 2 opposite words for jubilant. We have the first one being dejected, the opposite. Jubilant is happy, excited, elated, ecstatic. The opposite of that is dejected, which means sad and depressed. Then we have our second antonym, despondent, and that means in low spirits from a loss of hope. So for jubilant, the antonym, the first antonym is dejected and the second antonym is despondent. You see now, right? The antonyms. Then for serene, our first antonym is chaotic, which means incomplete disorder. Our third or second antonym is turbulent, which means characterized by conflict or confusion. So for serene, our 2 antonyms are chaotic and turbulent. And finally, for dilapidated, our first antonym is pristine, which means in its original perfect condition. And our second antonym is well-maintained, which means kept in good condition through regular care. So for dilapidated, we have 2 antonyms, pristine and well-maintained. Now, why is this so important? Again, I want to emphasize this by saying learning opposites creates clear boundaries around a word's meaning. When you know that jubilant is the opposite of dejected, you understand both words better, and you've learned 2 vocabulary items for the effort of 1. This is why step 4, finding the opposite word, is so powerful. And it leads us to step number 5, one of my favorite steps, telling a personal story. Now, when you recall a specific moment or experience from your life where this word would accurately describe the situation or emotion, it's powerful. Write out the story. Step number 5, write out the story that you remembered in 3 to 5 sentences with vivid details. Include sensory information, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, and emotions to make the story more memorable. Use the vocabulary word at least once, ensuring it flows naturally within the narrative. Now, why is telling a personal story so powerful? Here's the first reason. Stories activate multiple brain regions, which enhances long-term retention. Narratives engage sensory, emotional, and linguistic areas of the brain simultaneously, creating rich memory networks. The second reason why this is so powerful is that emotional memories are the most durable and easily recalled. When you attach emotion to learning, you create stronger neural connections that last longer. And finally, narratives demonstrate advanced usage in natural flowing language. By using the word in a story, you practice natural integration rather than forced or awkward usage. It's your story. It's your personal experience. So let's jump to my notes to see what this would look like in our example. Here we go. So for the term jubilant, again, we're looking at a personal story. Now, this is not a true story about me. This is just for our example. For the term jubilant, here's the story. I remember feeling jubilant when I finally passed my driving test after 3 attempts. I had been so nervous during the previous tries, but this time, everything clicked. My family celebrated with me that evening, and I felt absolutely elated as I drove home alone for the first time, windows down and music playing. This is a personal experience connected to the term jubilant. You will not forget this term. The second term, serene. Again, they're not long stories, but they're personal stories. Here's the story. Last summer, I discovered a hidden lake in the mountains during a hiking trip. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the pine trees and blue sky like a mirror. Sitting on a rock by the shore, I felt completely serene for the first time in months. With no thoughts of work or responsibilities, just the sound of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. This is a personal story connected to the word serene. And then what about the term dilapidated? Listen closely to this story, a personal experience, personal story. When I returned to my childhood neighborhood after 10 years, I was shocked to find my old elementary school in a dilapidated state. The playground where I used to play was overgrown with weeds. The swing sets were rusted and broken, and several windows were boarded up. It was heartbreaking to see such a once vibrant place fall into such disrepair. Stories connected to each term. Step 5, tell a personal story. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope these 5 steps will help you moving forward to remember and to use the terms you learn. I'll talk to you next time. You still there? You know what time it is. It's story time. Hey, hey, hey. I said it's story time. All right. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I taught you today the word serene as part of our example words. And many lakes look serene, the body of water, just peaceful. I remember when I was in college, I too went to a lake at the base of a mountain. It looked very serene. However, listen closely. I said, if there are any snakes in this serene lake, I'm not getting in. So my friend said, oh, Tiff, come on, we're going to get a canoe and we're going to go canoeing on the lake. I said, I'm telling y'all right now, if there are any snakes in this lake, I'm not getting in the canoe. So I can swim and everything. I don't like snakes. And the snakes in the lake, So the individual who was in charge of like giving out the canoes, who worked there, said, oh, don't worry. You're fine. You don't have to worry about any snakes or anything. This lake doesn't have any snakes. Oh, okay. No problem. Let's get in the canoe. Now, there's another factor that I have to mention to you about this situation. I had just gotten my hair done. Now, listen, my hair fried, dyed, and laid to the side. It was nice. I had it pressed. I had a perm. It was long, full. It looked great. I said, I am not getting my hair wet. So I'm going to get in this canoe. Let's just proceed forward. Just keep in mind I was telling my friends, so there were 2 friends that were in the canoe with me. So there was a big group of us, but in my canoe, I had been canoeing before. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let somebody else get an opportunity, right, to canoe, to paddle. So there was a guy in front of me, and then there was a female behind me who happened to be my best friend's cousin. She was behind me. So we all set off. I'm in the middle of the canoe. Everything is going fine. We're just going across the lake. Our other friends are in their canoe on the left and on the right. But I noticed something. The look on the man's face in front of me, my friend, he looked a bit concerned. And the canoe started to wobble a bit. I said, hey, we discussed this. Listen, my hair's not getting wet. I'm not getting in this water. We're good. He was getting nervous, and so was the girl behind me. But when you have two people getting nervous and they both have the paddles in their hand, problems are your future. So they start getting nervous. Why? I don't know. I said, guys, this is how I didn't realize that neither of them had ever paddled a canoe. I knew that my friend's cousin had never. I didn't know the guy had never paddled. I said, okay, here we go. So we're going through, and the canoe is rocking now. Long story short, the canoe tipped over. I said, oh, Lord, we're in the water. My hair never got wet. Now, my hair was not short. My hair was about right here. My hair was long. And I can swim. The canoe hit the water. Before the canoe hit the water, I was already in the water, doggy paddling, frog. I said, nope, I'm not getting my hair wet. And I was swimming towards my other friends who were in another canoe. I'm swimming quickly to get to there. I said, I have to get out this water. I paid too much for my hair. But they looked nervous. They said, Tiff, stop. I said, why are you telling me to stop? I need to get out the water. I'm getting in your canoe. If you get in our canoe, we're all going to fall in. And my stroke slowed down. I said, you're right. I said, okay. And it was in that moment, I also heard screaming behind me. I said, now who's screaming? Now, the guy that was in the canoe with me, very muscular, very much in shape. We used to roller skate together. I assumed he could swim. When I turned around, now we all had life jackets on, so it was okay. He was flailing in the water. I said, what's going on with you? He said, I can't swim. I said, oh no. So I said, my hair is the least of my concerns. So needless to say, I didn't care about my hair anymore. I swam back over to the canoe. I said, just hold on to the canoe. You're not going to drown. Then my friend's cousin, she's screaming. I said, what are you screaming about? She could swim. She was just nervous. I said, okay, I need you. We're all in the middle of the water, just treading water. I said, you guys just calm down. You hold on to the boat, flip the boat back over. So then the person that was working there came out, got us. So we were able to get back in the canoe. We get back to the shore. The story doesn't end there. We get back to the shore. My hair's wet. Everyone's saved, though. We're all alive. We're laughing and joking. And another person had come up that worked at the actual location we were at. So we're laughing. I said, y'all, I did not want to get my hair wet. We were in the middle of this water. Praise God, there's no snakes. And the person said, what did you say, ma'am? I said, oh, yeah, they told us there's no snakes in the water. She said, yes, there are snakes. I said, ooh, if I would have known, I would not have been in that canoe. So we all laughed again. But the day I didn't want to get my hair wet, I didn't want to get in the water with snakes. My hair got wet and I was in the water with snakes. Sometimes things happen, but I can talk about it now. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll talk to you next time.